Hooray, hurrah, we no longer have the era of YouTuber movies like F the Prom and Airplane Mode. We are past that. We are so fucking back. Hello and welcome to my review of Markiplier's Iron Lung. Based off of the game by David Szymanski, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. This is a pretty interesting adaptation by the one and only Markiplier, who mostly, if not entirely, self-funded this film. This is a movie that took a pretty damn long time to do. Movies in general, they take a long time to do. But because this was such a small budget and having to get everything together, the writing, the VFX, this and that, it took a long time not only to create, but also to get distributed. And let me just say, of course, there's going to be a huge bias here because I fucking love Markiplier. I grew up with his videos. I'm pretty sure I used like 3 or 4 of his audios in my fucking long video last year. I'm very happy for Markiplier, and this is a pretty damn good film. If you're curious on what the plot is, essentially, Markiplier plays as a convict who was sent down into a blood ocean on a moon after what is known as the Quiet Rapture. This Quiet Rapture erased trillions, an unknown number of organisms across the universe, but including 99.99% of humanity, only leaving roughly 1,000 people left. And they have not found life on any other planet until now. Or did they? Or did they not? Who knows? The plot here in the movie is pretty similar to the game, except they expand upon it quite a lot. We have a lot of conflict when it comes to the human side of things, and the horror is taken to a pure eldritch extent. Eldritch, Lovecraftian, I don't know the difference, unless they're the same, I don't know. Case in point, I was very excited for this film. This was one of my most anticipated movies of the year, which, considering a lot of the most anticipated movies I've had for 2026, came out here in January. Holy shit. And January in general was just a really good month for movies. Usually this is where all the slop comes out, you know, the shitty Blumhouse movies and all that. But here we got banger after banger after banger. We got The Bone Temple, we got Primate, we got Send Help. We had a bunch of good movies come out this month, basically. Alright, enough of that. Let's get into this movie. Starting out with the positives here, we have an expansion of the game's lore. The game of Iron Lung does not really have that much lore to it that it explores. There is lore to it, of course, but they don't really divulge in that information. Most of it is left up to the player's interpretation. We get to know about the COI, the Quiet Rapture, Eden, these incidents, so on and so forth. But most of it is just left up to the player to decide what really happened. And boy did Markiplier go fucking crazy with it. There's a lot of biblical themes in the original game, and Markiplier really brings that out, especially around like the 2/3 point of the movie. He just goes fucking batshit with it. When I tell you this movie is batshit insane, especially towards the end, it just goes crazy with it. The last half hour of this movie, the final act, oh my god, the amount of fake blood that was used, the effects, which I'll get to. There is so much that goes into this movie that just really makes it pop. Let's talk about those VFX for a second. This is a very low budget film. I don't know exactly what the budget is, but it is definitely low budget. It's still really good quality. There's some CGI effects here and there that are not really rough, but you can definitely tell that it is on the cheaper side of things. It doesn't really take away from the quality of the film. The practical effects and the actual Iron Lung itself on this hydraulic set, oh, it is just gorgeous. I am a huge sucker for practical effects, and this movie does a damn good job with the practical effects. All the makeup that they put on Mark, and I think her name is Ava, just absolutely stupendous. The unholy amount of fake blood that they used, delicious, beautiful, loved it, reminded me of the Fede Alvarez Evil Dead. And the CGI that they use, these creations that they make of it, so weird. I don't know what's going on, but I love it. And that's not to mention the camera mechanic in this. If you're not familiar with the game, there is a camera mechanic where you're able to see kind of what's going on around you. It's this weird x-ray thing, so you're able to see like these weird pillars and bones and just weird shit. And when I tell you there's weird shit, there is weird shit. I just love how they're able to replicate that here in the movie. And just the weird things, the weird critters and creatures. Oh, it just fills my heart with such joy. And the cinematography of this film, oh my lord, don't even get me started. There is an aspect of the cinematography that I'll get to eventually, but as a whole, it was really interesting. It is a very up close and personal, and when I mean that, I mean you can see every single pore in Mark's face. They do a lot of really fun artsy stuff with it. It is a movie that just has an identity to it. And that is the best thing that you can do as a movie. Whether you're a good movie, mediocre, bad, if you have an identity, that makes you good in my book. All around, I really like the style and execution of this film. From a story perspective, from the visuals perspective, from pretty much every single perspective, this movie fucking rocks. Though unfortunately, I do have to get into the things that I'm kind of mixed on. When I mentioned some of the visual effects, visual choices, there are some that I wasn't really the biggest fan of, but it doesn't really take me out of the experience. Like I mentioned, they do a lot of really up close and personal shots of Mark, specifically around like his eye and all that. There's one too many of those for me. It's not terrible, it's really not terrible, but back the camera away for like 2 seconds. I don't hate it, I don't really dislike it that much, but it does get a tad bit old. And especially toward the later part of this film, there's this one effect, I don't know what it's called, but I can only describe it as looking at Christmas lights with an astigmatism. That's the kind of effect that they use on Markiplier while he's kind of losing his mind. Don't get me wrong, it makes sense why it is there. It's just, it goes on a little too long. They kind of drag out that effect for just a smidgen too long. Another thing that I understand why they did it, but at the same time just didn't really work for me entirely, was around the halfway, kind of leading toward the second half of the movie. They have some moments with the speaker system in the Iron Lung, where you get all these overlapping voices, and just the general quality of the speaker goes down. It makes sense why they had the mixing the way they did, but even with moments that you were supposed to understand what was going on, I still had no idea what was going on. I still had no idea what they were saying. They did do that by design, which is why it's in the mix rather than the cons, but at the same time, not the biggest fan of it, especially if you're trying to divulge important information. I don't know. It works, but at the same time, there could have been just a little bit better of a mixing with it for the more important sections. And the last thing for the mix section, we have Markiplier as an actor. He's been in previous projects. The first two that come to mind are FNAF the Musical by Random Encounters and Edge of Sleep. I've seen the FNAF musical. I have not seen Edge of Sleep. I really need to. I'll get around to it at some point. So I don't really have a full grasp on how Markiplier is as an actor, but what it feels like in this movie is that for the first like 30, 45-ish minutes, he's not the most confident in his acting, so it just feels like we're watching Markiplier. But later on, as the movie progresses, you can really see him embracing the role. And there are some moments through the entire movie where the acting could have been a little bit better, but he's not a bad actor by any means. He just needs time to really get into his role. He did a good job all around. It just feels like in the first portion of the movie, could have been a little better. And I can imagine that for a lot of people, they'll have a very difficult time trying to separate Markiplier the YouTuber from Markiplier the actor. That's totally understandable. I can understand why that can take you out of the experience. That kind of happened to me in the first portion of the movie. But once he really embraces that role, he does a damn good job of it. You can still recognize that, yes, this is Markiplier. However, you can also see him as, yes, he is portraying this character. We're watching this character portrayed by Markiplier. It is a bit strange, and like I said, there's some iffy acting here and there, but he does a good job all around. And then my main negative with this movie, the pacing, especially in the first hour and some change. The pacing can really drag. There are certain scenes that definitely go on for a little too long, which I would rather have a film that drags on a little too much than go way too fast. Don't get me wrong. However, there are some scenes that really could have been cut down by 5 or so minutes. And I'm really one to complain about movies being too slow unless it just really fucking drags. I think the problem with this movie in general is that the first 30, 45 minutes-ish, you can definitely tell that they're trying to figure out where to put their feet. Where do we plant these ideas? Where do we plant this, this, and this? They're trying to find their footing. They're trying to get everything into motion. And it's not bad by any means. but I can see how it is a big turnoff for a lot of people. The pacing does improve, especially towards the end, but it just drags quite a bit at some points. Other than that, I had a really fun time with this movie. I can definitely understand why this movie is not for everybody. This is not for every horror fan, this is not for every moviegoer, but it's not super niche, I guess. But it is a film that you have to go into with certain expectations. This is a film by a very popular Let's Play YouTuber. He poured his heart and soul into this. This is based off a game that you can spend maximum 3 hours on. There are things you have to know before going into it, which I try to know virtually nothing about a movie going into it, but this is one of those films where you have to know just a little bit of something before going into it, whether you're familiar with Markiplier or not. But it was a fantastic experience all around. I had a damn good time with it, and if he does more movies, I'm going to be there opening day. And that's about it for me. That closes out the movies that I saw here in January. Thank you so much for watching if you made it to this point, and I'll be seeing you guys in February. Stay safe, stay warm, and I'll see y'all soon.